According to Talent Smart EQ, emotional intelligence is the strongest predictor of performance, believe it or not, and it explains 58% of success in all types of jobs. Moreover, emotional intelligence is an equal opportunity skill set, and guess what? We all have access to it. Welcome back to our 25 days of soul work. I am again excited that you have decided to join me on this journey. And for those who are new to this conversation, my name is Jaleesa Dallas. I am an author, coach, and consultant, and I help individuals and organizations cultivate courage. And this looks like helping them break barriers to their success, to bolster their belief with greater confidence, and to build courageous behavior to optimize their life. Ultimately, they're able to find belonging internally and externally in community. So again, I am excited. So if you haven't already downloaded our complimentary resource, you can find that at www.gobraveLLC.com. Again, that's www.gobraveLLC.com. And you can follow along with us on this journey. And I would love for you to like, comment, subscribe, and share this with someone you know, because today we are talking about building emotional intelligence with soul work. A lot of times we forget some of the important elements of what we have to build in order to really cultivate the lives that we want. And so yesterday we talked about self-awareness, but I figured we'd dig a little deeper and talk about the full scope of emotional intelligence and how we're able to do that in building and developing our capacity for the soul work process. So let's get right into it. The reason why this conversation is important is because managing our emotions are a fruit of the Spirit. Galatians 5:22 states this. Also, self-mastery is the goal of soul work. Mastering our mind, will, and emotions, not so much to where we don't feel, we don't think, and we don't do, but rather we have more control and restraint of those areas of our life, because we're not supposed to be led by our thought life or by our emotions or even our own will, especially if we are finding ourselves being in relationship with Christ. And then the third reason why this is important is because it helps us to be better leaders, not just of others, but also of ourselves. So let's go ahead and get into this conversation, because I want to talk about the soul work process again. And I hope thus far you're getting a good idea of what soul work is and essentially how to build your capacity as a leader of yourself, as a leader of others, and thriving in your life and business as it relates to emotional intelligence and its ties with soul work. So before we jump into this conversation, as you know, I love to give definitions. And so Google informed me that emotional intelligence is the ability to understand and manage your own emotions, as well as recognize and influence the emotions of those around you. So I like to simplify things. I think that's a part of my love for teaching, because when things are too complex, people don't really resonate with what's being shared, and it goes in one ear and out the other. So when it comes to emotional intelligence, I think of awareness, control, and engagement, and alliteration, or rather an acronym of ACE: awareness, control, engagement, because we have to be self-aware. We have to be self-managers or have a level of restraint and control. And that helps us eventually to be better collaborators, connectors as we engage in community. So that's one way that you can remember emotional intelligence, so that it resonates with you and you can have a good, sturdy understanding of what it is. But if we were to, again, dig a little deeper, emotional intelligence, gosh, it started in the early 1900s, that conversation, though it wasn't titled emotional intelligence. That wasn't the case until Daniel Goleman wrote a book in 1995 of the same name, Emotional Intelligence. And so from there are a variety of components that people have referenced, but I like to use the 5 that I'm most familiar with and really resonates with me. The first one is self-awareness, which we talked about yesterday, self-management and or self-restraint and control. There is motivation. There is social awareness or empathy. And then number 5 are social skills or relationship management. So if I were to dig a little deeper into each of those, because we're not yet connecting it to soul work, but we will in just a second. But if I were to give a definition for each of those, we again already talked about self-awareness, and that's a combination of our feelings, values, thoughts, beliefs, our perceptions, goals, interests, all of that. And then we have self-management, and that's our accountability to our commitments. It's assertiveness, discipline, again, self-control. It's problem solving, our ability really to actualize our self-awareness, because when we know ourselves a little bit better, we're more easily able to control how we react or respond to things. Our adaptability, our energy, whether it's our growth or positivity, our outlets, how we release stress. So that could look like gratitude journaling, setting appropriate boundaries. So those are a few things when we think about self-management. Then we have motivation, and a lot of people look at it in 2 ways. You have your intrinsic motivation and you have your extrinsic motivation. And intrinsically, that motivation could just be by way of satisfaction or just the desire to achieve. And then extrinsic motivation is a level of accountability that you have or other people's places on you to get things done. So for example, if you're working a job, if you're in your business, you have clients, customers, your peers, your colleagues looking to you for things to get accomplished, which can serve as external motivation. And then you have empathy or social awareness, it's also called. So with empathy, it's our ability to really listen, to care for, to give attention to by way of our body language and eye contact. And it leads us to more empathetic results. It's knowing when to help and essentially reading the room, because it'll be awkward, odd, however you want to call it, if you go into a funeral and you come in laughing, dancing, and singing. Now, unless this person has a desire for you to do a memorial in that fashion, then that would probably be inappropriate. So empathy helps us to read the room and to empathize with others and put ourselves in their shoes. And then lastly, relationship management or our social skills. And so this is our ability to communicate effectively with people, how we manage and or implement constructive criticism, and then how we understand conflict and navigating that process of confrontation with others. And so how do we build emotional intelligence with soul work? And so in order not to make this such a long-winded video, I do want to kind of give some highlights, and then we're going to dig a little bit deeper on tomorrow's video about what it means to build emotional intelligence with soul work. So I just want to remind you of some concepts that we've already talked about as it relates to the soul work process. We talked about going from avoidance to awareness, and that's a part of our self-awareness piece, emotional intelligence. Then we're going from admittance to acceptance, where we look at change, and then we also identify our support systems, with which we've talked about before. And then we go from adjustment to alignment. This is where we see if we're in alignment or parallel when it comes to our body, our soul, and then our spirit. And then lastly, advancement. How we are able to leverage or optimize our mastery of our mind, will, and emotions. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper into those tomorrow, but I hope that this was a good eye-opener to one, what emotional intelligence is, and a good introduction as to how to build that emotional intelligence with soul work. So thanks again for joining me as we go through our 25 days of soul work. I hope that this is helping you to unwrap courage as you consider this a gift for your soul this season. Again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this with someone you know. Also, make sure that you download our complimentary resource, because we would love for you to follow along, and by all means, share that as well with other people too. So thank you so much for joining me. Have a great one. And remember, Let your soul work be your best work to a better you.